Right, so welcome everybody on Zoom. You can see familiar faces, which is nice. Will, Eliana, Malaki, Marjorie, Jeff. Madeline's there as well. Very good. I'll just ask people in the hall to say hello. Just want to say your name and Dale. Gabrielle. Richard. Al. Carlos.
Mariano.
Carla.
Charlotte. Stephen.
Imogen. And Charlie on the move here. Very good. Good. So what we'll do is, as usual, light the candles and then we'll do the dedication of offerings. But today we're going to do a slightly different precepts to what we normally do. It's called the Ajiva Attamaka Sila. And people in the room, I've given printed copies. If you haven't got one, maybe share with your neighbor. And basically, the idea came to me when I went to Sri Lanka in December, and I was having a chat with one of my relatives, my mom's cousin's wife, and she practices as well, and her name is Dharma. That's a lovely name. And she asked me, okay, I went to her place for dinner and we were having a Dhamma chat. And then she asked me, so Randula, what precepts do you take? And I told her what precepts I took. And then she said, oh, I take the Ajiva Attamaka Sila, she said. I said, oh, okay. And then she explained what it was. And so basically it's, you have everybody who's come here today will probably be familiar with the 5 precepts. Yeah. But the 4th precept in this Ajiva Attamaka Sila, the 4th precept of not lying, gets expanded, which I found was perhaps quite useful because for most of us it's the speech that really trips us. So in this one, it really goes through more detail about taking the precept to not to lie, no harsh speech, no frivolous speech, no slanderous speech. And then the 8th precept is on right livelihood. So actually, it's really the 5 precepts just expanded, and it also has right livelihood. So that's why it's called Ajiva. Ajiva meaning livelihood, and Attakam Sila means Atta means 8. So that's where the name comes from, and so it fits in quite well with the Eightfold Path in terms of virtue that we find in the Eightfold Path. So the Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path, has Sila Samadhi Panya, which is virtue, concentration, and wisdom. And the virtue of it has right action, right speech, and right livelihood. And so the 5 precepts has right action and right speech. So in this version of the precepts, it expands the right speech to become more inclusive and not just not lying. And then it has right livelihood. It doesn't have not taking intoxicants, but you could perhaps see that being slotted into right livelihood, and also into the 3rd precept, which is Kamesu Michachara Veramani Sikkhapadam Samadhiyami. Because a literal translation of that, Kamesu, Kama means sense, our senses. So not misusing our senses, basically. So that would mean, if we're intoxicated, we'd be misusing our senses. And I remember when I learned it as a child, I was only about 6, and they didn't talk about sex when you were 6 years old. So I remember learning it or interpreting it in that way of not indulging in sense pleasure, which again I think is very very helpful. how I remembered it as a child was I'd have a picture in my mind and a big cross over it. So the one for the third precept I had was a big. So this is going to be very politically incorrect, but I was a 6-year-old child. So, so I had a big fat man sitting on a sofa, eating, watching television and eating lots of junk food, and a big cross. So that was my third precept when I was a child. Okay, so Imogen will kindly screen share for you, for those on Zoom, those that are Jiva Atmakasila, and I will put on the chat this article about it. It's for those who are here. It's printed on the top of the paper. The link to that article. Right, so I'll light the candles and then we'll do the dedication of offerings and we'll do these precepts. So on page 2 in the brown book. Yoso Bhagavāram Samma Sambuddho. To the Blessed One, the Lord who fully attained perfect enlightenment. Swakato yena bhagavata dhammo. To the teaching which he expounded so well. Supatipanno yassa bhagavato savaka sangho. And to the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Tamayam bhagavantam sadhammam sasangam. To these the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, ime sakare yattara aropite adipujayama. We render with offerings our rightful homage. Sadhu no bhante bhagava suchira parini bhutoti. It is well for us that the Blessed One, having attained liberation, Pachima Janatanukampanasa, still had compassion for later generations. Ime sakare duvatapanna karabhute praktikam hatu. May these simple offerings be accepted. Amhakandidaratam hikaya sukaya. For our long-lasting benefits and for the happiness it gives us. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened and Blessed One, Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi. I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo. The teaching so completely explained by him. Dhammam Namasami. I bow to the Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Sangham Namami. I bow to the Sangha. You can use your paper, or if you turn to 128, the first part will be the same. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham saranam gacchami. Dhammam saranam gacchami. Sangham saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi bhudam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Dutiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi buddham saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi dhammam saranam gacchami. Tatiyampi sangham saranam gacchami. Panatipata veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of enemies. Adinadana veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from stealing. Kamesu michachara veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct. Musavada veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from telling lies. Pisuna vacha veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from slanderous speech. Parusa vacha veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from harsh speech. Sampappalapa veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from frivolous speech. Micchajiva veramani sikkhapadam samadhiyami. I undertake the precept to refrain from wrong livelihood. Imani atta sikkhapadani silena sugatin yanti. Silena bhoga sampada. Silena nibbhutin yanti. Tasma silang visodhaye. These are the 8 precepts. Virtue is a source of happiness. Virtue is a source of true wealth. Virtue is the source of peacefulness. Therefore let virtue be purified. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So sit comfortably to meditate. Yeah. So we bring our awareness to this present moment. Two things that can really help us anchor our awareness in the present moment is our breath and this body. So we can follow the breath as the coolness touches the nostrils. You can follow the energy of the breath going up towards your skull, to the back of the head, down the spine, And as we breathe out, we can feel the energy, the movement, right down from the pelvis, the abdomen, the chest, the throat, back connecting with the nostril. So we can choose to follow this big cycle right throughout our body. Just connecting with the wave of energy coming from the nostrils up into our forehead, back of the skull, down our spine and back. And as it goes down the spine and back, we can notice the energy going back upwards through the abdomen and chest, back to the nostril. And as we do this, you can also visualize the body as muscles and bones. And try and connect with the softness of the muscle and the hardness of the bone. So this body is sitting here, bones and muscles, and there is this breath energy moving through it, from the nostrils and the forehead down to the pelvis and then up again. So we also become aware and awake to the movement within this body that appears still. If thoughts pop into the mind, we can imagine it being washed down, like a breath energy flowing down the body, like a waterfall. The thoughts are being washed down from our mind, from our headspace, down into the body. So the meditation, you may have followed your own meditation, but if you followed the beginning, or where I was saying about the breath energy, following it from the nostril right to the forehead and then down the back and then coming up, so it's almost like a whole circle. And then connecting with the body through the sensations of the muscles and the bone. So this way we're so connecting with all the felt experience of how the body is. And like I said at the beginning, if we can connect with it's quite powerful for us to come to the present moment. Because trying to be aware of our thoughts and feelings, it is quite challenging. Habitually, we will latch on to one story after the other. Or a feeling might give rise to a thought, or a feeling might give rise to anger or a depression. But if we are able to stay connected with the body, either through the energy of the breath, and then the fact that if we can follow it right throughout the whole body, for some people it probably would be more, I find it more helpful rather than just at the nostril itself, because our thoughts tend to we have a mental image of our thoughts being in our head. And then if I kind of just concentrate on my breath, I find it getting more, still focusing on my head. And so just to get my focus away from my head, I find it helpful to follow the breath right the way down to the back and then the pelvis, and then using that same sort of stream of energy when the thoughts come, you can almost wash the thoughts down with that same the energy of the air. I have an image of a waterfall, so it makes it a lot more pleasing, because otherwise if the thoughts come, you're like, oh, thinking again, lost again. It's gone again, and you're welcoming it as well. So you're not pushing the thoughts away. We're kind of welcoming the thoughts in and sort of like washing it down. So it's not like we are pushing it away. We're welcoming it in, and as it comes in, it then goes away as well. And so this, where I find it helpful to stay present and not get lost in thoughts, but also not fight the mind, and also connect the mental energy with how it's felt in the body. So we're letting it all in. So we're training the mind in this way of sort of acceptance and letting things into a safe, welcoming space. And then after a while, the mind will calm down. And then we can investigate what comes up. Because at the beginning, things that come up are generally quite really rubbish. So it's just like reverberations of what happened in the day. It's almost like waste products of, like echoes of the day. So we can just let them kind of flow through the waterfall and get washed away, and we don't need to, it just needs to be accepted. We don't have to push it to a corner. It just needs to be, oh yeah, coming, but we don't really need to hear the words of what it needs to say. We just need to kind of accept the energy rather. But when the mind's calm, there might be certain thoughts that just keep popping up again. But once the mind is still, you might be able to pick up certain thoughts that it might be okay. Maybe you can just have it like just like one sentence that just stays in the atmosphere almost, and then just read it out slowly. And this week you can then do now, because we've washed away all the background noise, and then what really needs to be kind of looked at becomes clearer. It's a bit like people know about the gem miners. They have to sift through lots of little stone as the river flows, and all the lots of stone have to, and stones that are not very precious, that have to sift through them, and then they find the real gem through it all. So like that, all these thoughts kind of come through. Lots of them are like, yeah, it's rubbish. But then once the mind is calm and our mindfulness is strong, we can sort of see certain ones. Oh, okay, there's something here to investigate. And it can be something that we sometimes don't want to look at. For example, it might be a thought like, oh, what will people think of me? We don't want to admit to the fact that we are conscious about how your opinion, everyone else's opinion. And so it might be that thought that comes, but sometimes we don't even want to look at it. So we can bring that one up, and then we can have it in a space. Okay, what will people think of me? And you just have that, or whatever it is that's come up. And it might not, so that when we are open to it this way, these hidden truths come up. Because if we are just with our mind, we will pick and choose what we want to deal with on, because we have an image of who we think we are. So we won't even notice these thoughts. So if you have, that's just an example of what will people think of me, and you just space it out. What? Space, will, space, people, space, think, space, of, space, me. And just keep looking at it. And then a truth will come to us. It could be something, the truth we can't say, what it will come, and it'll be different to different people, because it's the kind of the truth that we are to understand, and we will understand it in our own language. It will come to us in our own, whatever we need, so that there won't be a fixed answer. And if we think there is an answer, or if I give you an answer, then that's not right, and you can then transplant that answer into the meditation, and we won't gain any understanding of our inner, what we need to learn from that. So I picked up this example because it came to me. What will people think of me? And then, so I was doing the meditation, and then people and me sort of stood out. The rest of the sentence fell away. It's like, oh, people, me, and people. So then you're left with people and me, people and me. And then, because I was doing the meditation with, I tend to contemplate the body. Mariana jokes about it quite a lot, because I talk about it's like, so then I looked at the body. So people and me. So when I looked at me, I then looked at the body. And then the body, as I was contemplate the body, I just saw the body as just filthy and smelling, and muscles and bone and blood. And it's like, oh, me, the people. And then suddenly the sentence it kind of filled itself out. What will people think of me? And I thought, well, whatever they think of me is not as bad as what it really is. Like, whatever they think. The reality is far worse than whatever opinion someone might have of me. So, and then you're like, oh, okay. And then it sort of kind of fades away. And then, so you carry on your investigation this way. Some words that you can also apply are, so when things come up, things like, so you can do it like that with the spacing out the words, or you can ask questions like, what is this? And then stay with it. Or, who is it? Who is that? So sometimes for me, like memories come up. So, at the beginning we said we sort of, wash away things, but then after a while when the mind is still, these memories will start to pop up as well. And then you can question, oh, what is that? Who is it? So what it does is it takes us away from the story or the narrative of what this memory is trying to tell us to. What is it? So we are questioning it rather than believing the story, the narrative it's trying to tell us. We're really asking, what are you really, not what you're trying to tell me. And then what we begin to see is the bare structure of it. So if it's something about something that happened today, say I came to the Buddhist Society, I came through the tube, I stopped to have something to eat and drink, and so that it comes up. And he's like, oh, what is that? What is that? And so this kind of story comes up, and you're kind of stopping yourself and saying, what is that? What is that? Who was that? What is that? And the more you question, what is that? What is that? What is that? You will begin to see that, oh, it's just a memory. It's just a memory. It's just a memory. So you stop without getting caught with the story of it. You stop. This is where mindfulness comes, and we investigate. Because now we begin to see that it's a memory. It's not Randula came to London, took the tube, and then had a drink and came to the Buddhist Society. What was it really? And in that moment, when you look at it, oh, it's just a memory. It's just a memory. And so then this understanding comes as a consequence of questioning rather than believing the story. And the other question that you could pose is who? Who is it? So if we were saying interaction with somebody, so we could say, oh, Imogen was helping with the screen sharing, and then Mariana was helping putting the papers out, and I've been sitting here talking with it, taking the precepts, and so these things come up, and then you can question who is that? Who? What was that? And then that will also take you to kind of wondering who? Almost like you just stop and wonder who. And then, so those are the thoughts and the memories that come. And then we can do the same thing to our feelings, and then sort of our sensations and the body. And what you can then ask is the question of who does it belong to? This is another question we can ask. So we can have these So who and what is the thing? And then is there an owner? If so, who is the owner? So we're trying to figure out what is this thing that we are experiencing, what is it we're experiencing, and who does this experience belong to? Like, is there an owner of this experience? And the more you, so there is the body. So what we have to, so once we figure out, what this, before we look for the owner, we have to figure out understand what this is. Once we understood what this is, this is memory. This is not a story. This is just memory. These are just thoughts. These are just feelings. This is just the body. And we were saying that the body was not what we can see from outside or what people tell me. It's how it's felt internally and what we know, like the bones and the movement. And so what we know, once we understood, this is what it is, then we can question who. So who owns these memories? Who owns these thoughts that keep coming up? Who owns these feelings? Who owns this body? And then you keep questioning, and then we keep watching. And the more we observe and watch with this inquiry, we begin to see that all these things fade away. The memory, we keep watching it stops at one point. The feelings, they fade away. Our thoughts fade away. And the more we contemplate this body and we watch it, we can notice even the body changes, it fades away. And we can imagine from our understanding through other people, through experience from other people or what we learn, that the body eventually also decays and falls away. And so we connect with this decaying process of our experience. And if we truly connect with the decaying process of the experience, we can question then, okay, so who does it belong to then? This body is decaying. Yeah. Decaying. Where does it belong? Where does it belong? It goes away. Where does it belong? And we can see it sort of going away from us. If we were also in that, we would be gone too. But we can observe things decaying. So if we can observe things decaying, then we can't be the thing that's decaying, because we would be decaying with it. But we're not decaying with this. Yeah, so we can see it decaying. And so we understand, okay, this is the body is not who I am, then the feelings are not who I am, the thoughts are not who I am. Then who am I? You can ask this question, then who am I? And then you just see how you feel. What does it feel like to you? And I think in different moments of the practice that it will be different. And as we do more, as we purify our minds more and more, obviously our understanding changes of who we think we are. And so for me at this point, when I look at it, I feel like, what I connected with is that we're like a carer. We're just carers. And I wondered, so this is why I say when we observe that something comes that will just resonate with us in our own language, in how we can connect with it. So I wondered why does it feel like a carer? It's like, this body doesn't belong to me, but we are looking after this body. We have to look after this body. And like a carer will look after a sick person or an elderly person. And they will look after them. They will have to know what's wrong with them, what needs to be done, what their real problem is. So they really need to understand the person that they're looking after. And then they have to look after them with compassion. And when the person that they're looking after dies, they don't die with them, and they have to let them go. They will go, but the carer will still remain. But the whole time, the carer is there watching over this person that they're looking after. So I felt like, like they say in the Dhamma, it's like we have compassion, we have metta, we have loving kindness, compassion. We also have awareness, knowing where we're present, we know what's happening, we know the reality of what's happening, and we have wisdom, so we know how to act and what to do in line with what's needed at that moment. So I found this sort of letting go, or this knowing or awareness, is not just like something that we just, we're letting go, we throw things away, we're letting go, push things away, or we're just aware and we're sort of still and a bit, we could be indifferent and just know that things are happening and we just know it and that's it. But I found that actually this being present and knowing is a more sort of there is a more of an engagement in what's happening. And we are sort of looking after the present moment while we also are aware of the present moment. But we are not attached to the present moment, and we don't die with the present moment. So there is this, I guess Ajahn Amaro uses the word unentangled participation in the present moment. Okay. I think that comes to a natural end. Well, hopefully that was something for you to reflect on. And then we have about 15 minutes for reflections or questions. Yeah.
I have to ask you a question.
Yes.
Thank you for the talk. It's very thoughtful. How do you avoid what you described and then just falling into thinking? And how do you walk that fine line between thinking and reflecting and witnessing? Really? How do you know you're doing one or the other?
It's a good question. I'll just repeat in case people on Zoom didn't hear. So the question was, how do we know whether we are just proliferating with our thoughts or whether we are actually reflecting and going to a deeper understanding to allow the answers to arise. So this is what I found at the beginning, is to sort of the initial thoughts that we might have unless we've been on a retreat. If we've been working or doing other things, initial thoughts will probably just be chatter. And to sort of kind of wash it away and have the mind a bit still. But also during the day, whatever we encounter, if we can reflect in terms of the Dhamma, say whatever feeling or whatever we see, or whether we are walking about, so for example, just walking through the tube station, you can still be aware of the body. You can still be aware, well, if you want to, that it's a skeleton that's walking across the train station, and so you can be present. And so this way, when you do sit to meditate, even the thoughts that do come up, the memories, will still be more in tune with Dhamma, rather than, oh yeah, there was a sale there, McDonald's had 50% off, or something like that. What will happen is, more in tune with that. And then, even if it is you're thinking, oh, I'm just thinking, it still be thinking in Dhamma. So it doesn't matter if you are still doing that. and then after a while, you will probably know for yourself, to kind of whether because when you find the answer through true understanding, you almost see a unexpected truth that you didn't. It didn't even occur to me to see it in that way, rather than something you read or so to be very fresh. Yeah. And also the question will be very fresh as well. So that's one way of figuring out. And also you will find a sense of ease and almost like a release. Some things, oh God. Yeah. Or like aha. Whereas when it's more thinking in the head, I find that you start to get really tensed up in the head, you get really focused, or your ego you can get more of an ego. I'm studying so much, I'm reading this, I'm learning so many things. The mind can create an ego around the thinking. Whereas when it's through understanding, there's more of a easing, letting go. So, and the way you reflect the what you say, the quality of the thoughts are different. In that when we're thinking, sometimes it's that I find we use more words, and then one leads to another very quickly. But when it's sort of reflecting and sort of it's more of a, like I said, you just have one sentence. And then there's lots of pauses between them, and ultimately there's just two words, and then you're just watching. But you do need to contemplate through the thinking mind as well. The analogy that I've shared before, but maybe people here might never heard it, is one of making bread. So the thinking mind is a bit like when we're making bread, we're kneading the dough. We need to knead the dough, because otherwise it will just be thinking, all worldly things. So this is sort of setting the stage, or making it ready to be baked. And then when we come to sort of contemplative investigation, it's like then putting the kneaded bread in the oven. When the oven's in the right temperature, we have to let it go. And then we don't know what's going to happen. It's up to the oven, but it's good. And once the bread is done, it can't go back to being the dough again. It's transformed. But without the initial thinking, we can't do that either. So the Pali word is wise contemplation, sati sampajanya. Yoniso manasikara. Manasikara means thinking. Yoniso means the womb. So it's like thinking to go to find the origin of all that. So yeah. So I can see Tiffy's got her. Brian.
Thanks very much. That's been really helpful, Randula. I was just thinking, I don't know if you've got something to say about, I really love what you're saying, I suppose, about the kind of things that come in and go and all the rest of it. But then we sometimes have these repeated tendencies, of maybe perhaps a strong emotion, something like anxiety, and similar kind of triggers, and these things are so frequently repeated that they kind of dress up as being the me that's left behind at the end of everything else. And I think, in my experience, that's a lot harder, because, and it does vary in intensity, but yet the repetition makes it feel, at the very least, like a close family member to the bit that remains, So, yeah.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate to what you're saying, because that's who we end up being, isn't it? Our character gets sort of formed by, oh, that's her, that's who they are, that's their kind of pattern of behavior, and the same things kind of trigger, or it could be something different, but the response is sort of a similar response. But for me personally, I mean, I also have that as well, is to make it a, well, what I've done is to make it a point to wake up to it. So once I know, oh, this is what I do when this happens, and I make a fool out of myself. After the thing has happened, I'm be like, oh gosh. And but because when the thing is happening, I don't see that. I feel sorry for myself, and I feel like this is all justified. But only afterwards, I can see more clearly. But once I kind of recognize, okay, these are the things that are happening, and then so I bring to my mind, okay, Randula, when this happens, this is what you do, and this is, and then contemplate why is this happening? What are you trying to get? It's usually a craving that gets triggered, or a fear, or what it might be. So if you have to investigate when you're not in that situation to see what is it that's missing, or what am I trying to get? What am I trying to avoid in these situations? And then just see what is it. Why am I seeking this through this, or what am I trying to run away from? And then when you're in that moment, you might still get triggered, but you will perhaps be triggered for a short period of time because you've contemplated on it before, and you also contemplate on the suffering that comes afterwards, after this whole drama that you've gone through of acting out that emotion, and then seeing the suffering, and then really seeing the dukkha, the first noble truth. And then that's what I'm saying. So the first noble truth, and then the cause. So what is it? What am I clinging to? What am I running away from? And so once you've sort of contemplated that, like you were saying, we can either get to an understanding, if we're really, if our goodness, our parami are very strong, we might get liberated from that habit just by doing that. But often we don't, and so we experience it again. But this time it might be for a shorter period of time. It might be less intense, or it might be the same. But we have to keep doing this until we do the work on it afterwards, and then during it as much as we can. Then we probably can't release ourselves. But I found being honest with ourselves, because I found it quite easy to blame the other person. To say it's your fault, if that's why this is happening. If you change what you're doing, this won't happen. But you find that you can't. It's impossible to keep changing the world or changing other people. And what also helped me was at the end of this sort of contemplation, and I also listened to a talk from Ajahn Chah. I don't remember the context of it, but what I ended up with this feeling of learning to love the imperfect world. So, which also meant my own imperfections and also the imperfections of other people. And sort of once I kind of connected with that, the fact that the world is imperfect, everything is imperfect, that also made it a lot easier. I don't know, maybe some of that might give you something to think. Marianne.
Yeah, my own experience.
Yes.
It is about also creating the conditions around us. So I can see my case, and you look at monastics. So what do they do? They've got a timetable of some type, they keep the form,
Mm.
they guard the door of the senses.
Mm.
Do I really need to watch that movie at 10 o'clock in the night? And all the triggers that arise just because I am all over the place. Done 3 hours on the computer, get up and go for a walk. So simplifying as well. Do I really need another one? Because the urge to go into the shop for the latest gadget is so strong. So it is preventing them from arising in the first place, but also very good what you said about dealing with the thought and so on. Another technique that I find useful is whenever thoughts arise, especially the powerful one, there is emotional energy behind it. They arise because there is that emotional energy which goes into words and narrative stories and so on. And so catching them early, opening up the body, breathing in deeply, and relaxing the body, because the emotions are in the body. The moment you start relaxing, you can't be angry and relaxed at the same time. And that I find that it helps me. And if they are particularly strong, there are techniques like breathing 5, pause 3, breathe out 10, pause 3, and do it a few times until the kind of energy dissipates a little bit.
Did you hear any of what Mariana said? No. Okay. So he was saying, I'll summarize. Sorry, Mariana, I won't do it justice, but saying about sense restraint, and limiting what we are exposing our minds to, and making sure we're kind of doing the practice so that our mind is already in a calmer state, and then also feeling whatever that's triggered us, feeling it in the body, and then releasing that energy. And then he gave a technique about pausing, counting to 5, and then releasing, counting to 3, and releasing. And I think that's true. I mean, it's interesting. Your sense restraint thing I could connect it with how we started the evening with the precepts that we did, and that's really helpful. And so the ones where we did particularly about speech, and a lot of these things that when we get triggered it comes out in our speech really. I don't think most of us are violent. I'm a practitioner, but you could be, but I would say majority probably comes out as verbally. So those precepts could be a reminder to us. If we recited it, it might just come up in our conscience. Oh, harsh speech, slanderous speech, frivolous speech, and then the other thing that Mariana was saying was what we are exposing our minds to. So a lot of the things that, like our sense experience that we expose our minds to, makes our mind more restless. And in fact, I do try to take more of the formal, the other 8 precepts that we have about entertainment, beautification, and not sleeping in luxurious beds, or not eating after midday, or I'm single, so I could take the sort of celibacy one as well. So you could look at all these sort of the precepts and see which ones you could adapt to your own lives, and the more we don't expose ourselves to sense stimulation, the calmer our mind gets, because the mind is then quite content with how things are in the present moment. It's not sort of spoilt like a spoiled child with all the sensory world. And that's what I found about it was there in the teachings as well, through body contemplation. as well, the mind gets calmer, and we tend to be able to kind of connect more with the body and not get lost with the feeling and thought. And also the sense of self and the sense desire also reduces as well. Okay. Well, we've just gone after 8 o'clock. So we'll end there today. Thank you for all your questions. And shall we do the closing homage? Yeah. Page 6. Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava, the Lord, the perfectly enlightened one, Buddham Bhagavatam Abhivadeni. I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo, the teaching so completely explained by him. Dhammam Namassami, I bow to the Dhamma. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho, the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well. Sangham Namami, I bow to the Sangha. Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Many thanks.